Konnichiwa, Mina-san. Welcome to another episode of Backlog Brain Rot. Joining me for this episode is none other than my fellow Trails aficionado, Sean.
Hey guys, I'm very excited to talk about Trails today because I love this series and we got a great remake and it kind of blew me away. So I'm really excited to talk about it.
Yeah, me too. We can kind of get into, I think, the original Trails in the Sky first chapter. Now, I guess I'll kick it off here. So, I played it was actually the third game in the series I played. I played Cold Steel 1 and 2 on Vita first. And then eventually I think I replayed them on Steam and I did get them for PS4 as well when they released that. I can't remember if it was like enhanced edition or what it was called, but they
Mm.
basically re-released it. And after that, after I replayed it, I was like, "Ooh, I really like this series even more than I remembered. So I should look into playing more of the games." And that's when I saw the Sky games on Steam. And I knew before Cold Steel 3 came out, everybody I looked up said you need to play the Sky games first. So I played Sky first chapter. And while I did like it, obviously the characters and the writing is phenomenal, as all the Trails games are. I did have some issues with the game. Like, obviously, the first game in the series always has slow pacing, but that's definitely true for the first game in the whole series, which is Sky First Chapter. There isn't a real whole lot that happens till near the end of the game, but my big issue was the combat. Obviously, was way different going back from Cold Steel 1 and 2 to Sky. And my main issue was just the combat being focused mostly on Joshua and Estelle, which gets fixed more in the sequel, but I thought it made everything kind of slow a little bit. But otherwise, I mean, I really enjoyed the game, obviously, and went right into second chapter after it. And second chapter is a really great game, too. But what did you think of the original Trails in the Sky first chapter when you played it?
So, similar to you, I did not play Trails in the Sky first chapter first. I played Cold Steel first, but then I did go back and play the Sky trilogy because I loved Cold Steel so much. Similar to you, I was kind of baffled by the different combat style in the original Trails in the Sky compared to Cold Steel because you can definitely see the evolution. I understand if you started with Trails in the Sky,
Right.
you could definitely I could see the small improvements they would make with each game. But it was definitely something I had to get used to. But I really fell in love with the overall. I just really like the world of the overall game and the lore of the entire universe that getting to the start of the franchise was really cool and it was really awesome to see the stuff we've heard about in Cold Steel, stuff they talk about actually happening, and like the areas and the towns and stuff that we they talk about in Cold Steel. Actually, seeing that in a game was pretty cool. And we get the whole bracer aspect of being trying to become a bracer and being a bracer.
Hmm.
Um, not really knowing in Cold Steel like what actually a bracer is or what it takes to entail to be a bracer. We would just we hear about them a lot, and we meet characters who are former bracers and are current bracers, but we don't really know what it entails. And it was
Right.
kind of cool to kind of go on that journey of becoming one and becoming a master bracer.
It's funny because yeah, obviously if you start with Cold Steel like we did, Sarah is kind of like our big bracer
Yeah.
connection. And then also Toval, which is funny because in Cold Steel 1 and 2 I thought Toval was one of the lamest characters. I really didn't like him that much, but he does get better later on. But yeah, it is funny. And then of course we knew the big twist, which was my favorite character, might still be in the whole series. I love Olivier or Olivert
Mm,
in Cold
yeah.
Steel. And it's funny, like no, having that context going back because like I was still new enough to Trails because like I said, I only played the first two games. That when Olivier appeared on screen, I'm like, wait a minute, isn't that Prince Oliver? Like it kind of
Yep.
seems like him, but I wasn't entirely sure. And I'm like, but he seems like a way better character than he was in Cold Steel. So
Yeah, I mean, you can see. I think a lot of that you see the evolution of him as a character. It comes with age and comes with just maturing. But yeah, I definitely saw it was cool to kind of go back and see, um, like the evolution of the characters and of the recurring characters that we see earlier on, especially because we already knew like the outcome of some of the stuff that was going on.
Yeah, and I think so. Yeah, we can kind of switch to talking about the remake now. And I know this was a really special one for you because you got a review code for that. So, did you want to talk a little bit how that worked and what it was like to have an official? Did you have to like put out a review, or did you have anything you had to do? Like,
Yeah, well, I contributed to like a we did like an a podcast episode just
oh,
like
nice.
spoiling the game, a spoiler cast, but I got a review copy of this game thanks to lordsofgaming.net. It was really cool. I Lord Cognito, who is like kind of one of the owners at Lords of Gaming, reached out to me because he knows I'm a big JRPG guy and he knows this is like a beloved series to me, and asked me if I wanted to be a part of it. And I said, yeah, sure. And I was so happy because coming into Trails in the Sky remake, I really like the original art style. Like I love that
Yeah, me
OG
too.
art of the not 2D, but like kind of like the top down
Yeah, like the
um
chibi style with
chibi art style, yeah, of the Sky trilogy and the Crossbell arc. I really like that. So when they announced the remake, I was like, that's really cool for to so people can really access the game because it is one of the more challenging games to access if you don't have like a PC. Um, but I was like, why not just re-release the old ones? Like we don't really
right.
need a remake. But I was completely blown away, and it blew me away. Like I think they took everything from the original game and just made it even better. Um, it is essentially a one-to-one remake with some
Right.
changes, obviously, with some changes, but they did a phenomenal job. I couldn't believe it.
Yeah, it's funny because that is obviously going off of Final Fantasy VII Remake. I think this is kind of what a lot of fans originally wanted when that got announced, like a more of a one-to-one remake cuz like you said they basically perfected the game in my opinion, like especially the combat. They pretty much fixed any issue I had with the
Yes.
combat. It's actually other than which I've talked about before that Reverie is still like my favorite combat in any JRPG. And while I did like Daybreak and the improvements in Daybreak 2, I thought this was better. I liked it a lot more. Like I liked the follow up stuff. I just thought everything felt a lot more fluid and the challenge was there at least in the beginning as well. So yeah, that they definitely fixed my major gripe with the combat from the original. What did you think of it compared to the first one?
Oh, it's totally a step up. I mean, like we had mentioned earlier, one of the things that we had a gripe with when we originally played the original was the combat, and mainly because we started with Cold Steel. You can see the influences that they implemented in the remake from the newer Trails games, specifically like Daybreak. You brought up Reverie. They kind of include the best of both worlds with both of them, and I really enjoyed what they did with it. It's gonna make going back to play the original, if I ever do, a little bit like a lot more challenging than it already was due to the combat.
Right.
Um, I
Yeah.
honestly don't see myself going back to play the original anytime soon.
Yeah, I don't know if I can ever go back to the original after this one because they just, I mean, with all the quality of life stuff, I also want to talk a little bit about what they changed with the court system because, especially
Mm,
going back from Cold Steel to Sky One, it's like they really streamlined it when they went to Cold Steel. They made it a lot more obvious, like what kind of spells you were getting, and you didn't have to
yep.
worry about adding up the different elements. Where when you go back to the original Sky, I had no idea what I was doing and especially since again in Cold Steel 1 crafts were so powerful you didn't really need to worry about arts where you needed to focus on arts in the original trilogy and Crossbell to an extent as well. But I really like
Yeah.
the updates they made to this. Like they don't have as many slots as some of the Trails games do, so you can't like get too crazy, but they kept the element addition and they just made it a lot more fun. Like by the end I had Olivier had every spell. Like that's basically how I built him.
Yeah.
He had every power spell and or every power art, and yeah, I really like the change they made.
Yeah, no, it's funny you said that because I remember playing the original. I kept like a notebook with me to like write down like
Yeah.
exactly like how I can get certain spells to work and certain arts to work. Whereas in this game, like they again, it's much more streamlined. You don't have to do that, so that is such a better version of the combat, which is great.
I guess before we get into the plot and like the just go through the game together, what did you think of the voice acting and script change? Because I feel like those two things, especially the script change, kind of rubbed that was probably the biggest criticism, I guess I would say, from a lot of people and a lot of big Trails fans I've seen because of like, they I feel like they tried to make more of a traditional Japanese script. Like they took it word for word. They didn't really try to
Mm,
change it to match with the newer Trails games, or they didn't try to like add some of the stuff like the XC did basically. But
yeah. I didn't mind it to be honest. Like I know a lot of people were complaining about it, but I will say that Trails in the Sky, like the original, is was not one of my favorite games in terms of
mhm,
plot and in terms of characters, just attaching to some of the characters. So um the change in certain lines and the change in the translation didn't really bother me as much, mainly because these characters aren't as iconic to me as some of the future characters
right.
that we get to see. So it didn't bother me as that much, but I could see why it would bother some people. I'm curious, did you play in English or Japanese?
I played in English.
Okay.
Did
I
you
played
as
in
well?
both. I
Oh, you
did
did
two
both?
playthroughs. I did two play.
Okay.
I did one the first time I played through it. I did it in English. The second time I wanted to just try it with Japanese. I actually really liked it. I know some people hated the English voice acting for this game. I really enjoyed it.
I do as well. It's funny because really the only character that had to grow on me was Estelle. Like when I first
That's
started
exactly what I was gonna say.
Yeah,
Yeah,
when I first started hearing her, I was like, I don't. I mean, it was fine, but as I played, I did like it more, and I do really. Estelle's Japanese voice actress is really good as well. So I will say, when we get to Crossbell, that is going to be a tougher one for me because I really love the sub voices for Crossbell. Obviously, they have the dub voices in Cold Steel 3, 4, and Reverie, but I just absolutely love the Japanese cast for Crossbell. So I would likely play that one in Japanese, but the rest of them I pretty much like the dub. I mean, even Cold Steel, like I go back and forth because some voices I like more in Japanese and some I like in English. But obviously, we started with the dub. I'm sure both of us did.
Oh, of course.
Cold
Yeah, of course.
Steel.
Yeah.
It's hard to beat Sean's Reen. Like he's just so
Oh my
good with
god.
it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. No, yeah. Well, we can get into when we get to Cold Steel. We'll talk about
right,
Reen's because I think Reen, in terms of voice acting wise, I think it's one of the best. Same thing
I
with Lloyd.
agree.
Him and Lloyd.
I will say with as far as the script, like obviously there's some lines like at the beginning where Estelle says, "My present's a boy." That's like one of her
Yeah.
famous ones, but I think it didn't really bother me what they changed. I kind of like when they stick more traditionally to the Japanese script because it's more of a one to one translation. But the only thing that really bothered me is like some of the names, like of the towers and stuff like that, were kind of like weird. Like they didn't keep some of the original names, but then they'd like. I feel like they would say a different name than what was actually on the signs and stuff sometimes, but maybe I missed that.
No, that's just true. That is one of the that is something that was brought up in that podcast that I did. That someone said like, they took the time to change in English like how they say it, but they didn't take the time to change it in game.
Also, this is not anything to do with the game's fault. Well, I guess it's kind of, I guess it's more Gung Ho's fault than who will like license the game in America compared to Falcom. But if you got the special editions like I did from Limited Run, they still, I haven't even got my original, like my game yet. Like I bought it for Switch, the Bracer edition,
Yep.
and I was supposed to get the game back when it released in September, and it's November
Fifth.
5th right now, and I
You
still
still
don't
haven't
have
got
the
yours?
game.
I got mine. I got mine in October.
Okay. Which, like I said, I was fine because I already was going to get it on PC as well and play it there. But if I didn't, I would be super annoyed because that usually NIS has always been really good at getting the special editions out on time. In fact, Cold Steel 3 I got 1 or 2 days early, and I was so excited. Like I was like, I can't believe I got this game early. But yeah, that's a bit of a bummer with Gung Ho. But otherwise, yeah, the script didn't bother me except for the names for the most part.
Mm, yeah.
All right, I think we can just kind of start going through the game chapter by chapter. There's not we kind of talked about it a little bit, but as far as the plot, this is a very like Estelle and Joshua focused story. Like it's mostly about their journey through the different areas to get their senior bracer requirements done. So until like chapter 3, I would say the story really starts to pick up after that.
Yeah,
But of course, there's only 4 chapters. But
it is very much like a cookie cutter, like establishing the world that you're in and kind of growing of the characters. It's not a lot of high stakes. It's more of like a personal growth journey rather than like, oh my gosh, the world's gonna fall apart if you don't do this. Whereas in like the future games where there's like crazy stuff happening every second.
right. And I will say, I don't know if you felt this way as well, but I think I appreciated the story and the characters a lot more. Like originally when I played, I wasn't the biggest fan of Joshua, but by the end I actually really liked Joshua a lot more than I realized by the end.
No, I agree. I like I said, I think the story is much simpler. It's much more of like a um I feel like it's much more of a JRPG that you would find in like the early '90s on the Super Nintendo, where
Yeah,
again it's a simpler story. There's not a lot of things to not a lot of complex things to think about, not a lot of complex theories, or they're not really setting anything up crazily. I think it's more of like you learn these characters, you learn about the world, and I do like again of the original games, like these were not this is my least favorite trilogy, but I like the remake so much that I kind of elevated both Estelle and Joshua in my character ranks.
yeah, I agree. Sky trilogy is my least favorite as well. I will say that when they remake Sky second chapter, which obviously they tease, which was also a bummer because they showed like the trailer and stuff before the game even came out to a lot
Yeah.
of people,
So
but
we already knew, yeah.
yeah, that's gonna be. I could see that being a perfect game for me
Yeah.
because I almost gave it a perfect rating the first time I played, and if they with the added combat and stuff, it's gonna be very good.
Yeah,
But
no, definitely. I'm way more excited to see the remake of the third game because the third game is
yeah,
just
that's gonna
so
be good.
different.
Yeah, that one's got especially with all the doors and stuff. Yeah,
Mm.
that's gonna be interesting. Before we start with the prologue and the beginning, I do want to ask you about the side quest because it's funny looking back. Because obviously, Trails is famous for how good the side quests are, and I've seen a lot of people talk about either is that they're like, oh, they were like blown away by the NPCs and the side quests, like how good they are and stuff. And then also, like older Trails fans like me, I'm looking back like, man, the side quests get a lot better in the newer games because while they are do have some good side quests in this one, especially the new ones they added were pretty interesting. I feel like compared to like some of the newer ones, I feel like the side quests are a little weaker than I remembered. I don't know if you agree, but
No, definitely. I think you see in the newer games like the evolution of how their ability to storytell and their ability to create more memorable storylines. One thing that I really like about all the Trails games is those NPCs. Like
yeah,
almost every single NPC is named. They have like a unique name and they have something unique to say. There's not like a copy and paste, Farmer Man 2 here. Um, but I definitely see that you can see the difference in the side quests that they added compared to the ones that were just
yeah.
remade from the original. You can totally see the ones they added were so much more like the ones you would find in like a Daybreak or a Reverie compared to like the original Sky games.
It's funny too because obviously we have Anton, which is a famous NPC, and his side quest was so funny, especially in this game because I don't know if you remember, but it's near the end of the game in the capital city, and you have to like follow this NPC around. Oh yeah, I think you have to do it to get a book. I don't know if you got all the books like
Yeah,
for
you do. Yeah.
but you have to like follow this NPC around 3 times, like when if because Anton says if she passes him 3 times, then it's fate, of course, that because he falls in love with everybody, as we'll see later in the series. But it's still funny how like he's just such a focused NPC that you see through his journey throughout the series, and like you said, that is one of the best parts of Trails right there.
Oh yeah, definitely.
But yeah, I do want to shout out to the Annalise side quest because she's one of my favorite characters in Sky, which I feel like she's not in the games as much as I would like them to be, but she gets like a special side quest. I think it's in like chapter 1 or 2
It's
that you
the
get.
end. It's near the middle of chapter one.
Okay. Yeah, and
Yeah.
then but you get to see a little bit of her, and I was like, I remember when that popped up. I'm like, oh, I don't remember this from the original game.
Yeah, I think like I said, I think the remake in general, I think just making it full on 3D, I think it helped
Oh yeah.
expand a lot of the stuff that they originally had in the original game. It made things bigger. Just like having a 3D plane made areas and um things just seem bigger, even though it's at the same scale.
Yep. Well, and that's one of the things like I really appreciated, like jumping into even the first chapter, like starting out with Roland and exploring Estelle and Joshua's hometown in that area. It's just it felt so good to like see these maps fully utilized in 3D, and obviously they added stuff to them because in the original games there wasn't much to these maps. Basically, straight lines from like
Yeah.
Perzel Farm to Roland and the mines and all that, but they really fleshed out the world and just made it so beautiful and fun to explore.
It reminded me of what we had brought up earlier with the Final Fantasy VII remake, how Wall Market in the original Final Fantasy VII is like two screens, and then
Right.
in remake it's like this giant bustling market town. It very much was very similar to that.
Yeah, so I think we can now just kind of start going through the game. So, like, prologue, obviously, like I said, we start enrolling, and basically, Estelle and Joshua start getting their bracer license, and they start out with getting some lessons from Shara. As you go to the sewers at the beginning, which again I was like impressed already going in compared to the original game, what we got to see down there. And yeah, then just going to the farm. And then did you discover the special area where you can like they have a bunch of enemies, kind of like a grind spot that they added to
Yes.
pretty much all the maps? And I thought that was a fantastic addition because I always do like to grind a bit in Trails, especially if you play the harder difficulties you need to. But having just this one spot that you can easily reload and go back in with tons of enemies is so nice that you don't have to worry about grinding in the open world then.
Yeah, I know for sure because it kind of mainstreams like your ability to level up. Like if you find that like, oh, this is too challenging, you know you can just go to this one area. I think that was a huge quality of life improvement, and it's something that I hope they do going forward in the games.
Yep. Yeah, so you kind of just get into doing a couple different quests. You go to the farm, like I mentioned, and you get to meet two of my favorite characters in this chapter in the Sky trilogy, and that is Nile and Dorothy. What do you think about those two?
Yeah, I know. I really enjoy them too. They're not close to my favorite, but why are they some of your favorites? I'm just
I don't know.
curious.
I like their I love Dorothy just because she's so like quirky and she like gets really into taking photos, and I just
Mhm.
always thought that Niall was a great character. I don't know. I just always enjoyed him. It's funny because originally before I knew who the Grandmaster was for Ouroboros, I thought maybe Dorothy was the Grandmaster for some
Jeez.
reason. That was my running theory because, like, she's the type of character that she seems like she knows more than she lets on. Like, obviously, when she gets really serious about taking pictures and stuff, and then obviously you're on that quest and you keep running into this mysterious professor, which we can talk about later, that this good natured man with eyes that don't come out very often. So he's a good all around guy. But
Mhm. It's funny that I do of the two. I like Niall a little bit more. I always like the journalist slash reporter character. He reminds me of Dingo from Trails Through Daybreak a
Yeah,
little bit.
Dingo's great. I was thinking too, what's the crossbow reporter? Is it Grace?
Oh my gosh, I think that's yeah, I think that's her name. Hang on.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure Grace from Crossbell, because
Yeah, it's Grace Flint. Yeah, it's
she's a
Grace
little
Flint.
more aggressive. Like I never liked Grace as much. I think that might be another reason why I liked him a little more, just because obviously Trails does get they like their journalist characters because they have him and
Mhm.
they have
This
Grace and
one and almost
Dingo.
everything. Yeah.
Like, and then is it Vivi becomes a journalist? I think
Yep.
from Cold Steel. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, I just always really like those two. I'm not sure. It's just like the smoking journalist who's always like chasing after the photographer who's always breaking her camera and charging, getting money that he has
It's
to
kind of
pay
like
for her.
he fits the stereotypical like old style journalist where you see them they're always
Yeah,
smoking and they're always like trying to get the story and it reminds me of like what you'd see in like like an old like newspaper like
yeah.
printing area.
But yeah, I always like that in the first part. And then yeah, you get to go to the mines, and of course you run into this mysterious girl from the academy, Jenna Academy,
Mhm.
named I don't know if she gives her name actually. I mean, her name's Josette, but I don't. Does she actually
She
say
doesn't
that?
she, not yet. No. No.
Yeah. So she's looking at a quartz that you bring back to the mayor, and then obviously you find out that she steals it later. Well, Joshua
Mhm.
solves it. Estelle just gets sucker. I always like I guess, the repertoire between Josette and Estelle, especially through the game. The beginning, like she's so nice to her, and Estelle just like sucks it all in. She's like, "Oh, I'm just so happy to meet this great, strong bracer who is just so like cunning and beautiful."
Yeah, she kind of like almost like wants to like almost like be her.
Yep. But yeah, you meet them, and then obviously you find out that she's the culprit who steals the special gem you brought back from the mine. And you get into a boss fight, and I will say this boss fight threw me for a loop. I did not expect it to be as tough as it was, because in the original game, I feel like, was it even a boss fight, or it wasn't much of a
It
fight
was
if
like
I
a pseudo boss fight, just
yeah,
like a larger enemy.
it wasn't really that challenging, where I feel like it might be one of the hardest fights in the whole game, because I feel like
Well,
the game gets easier as you play it, like
I
with
always feel like the early bosses in these games when you don't have a lot of like you're not
options
really
and
high
stuff.
level, you don't have
Yeah.
a lot of options are always a little bit more difficult. But yeah, this one did kind of throw me for a loop, especially compared to later games, early bosses. This was like really tough. And I was still getting used to the new combat.
Yeah, same. But yeah, you only have three characters, and yeah, I feel like the enemies, of course, I feel like in the original you could pretty much like one shot almost just the regular enemies. Where this they would get, the one thing they added was a bunch of like counters and buffs to like the enemies would do, and that really can make the fights. I think I did die in that fight the first time, so.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
But yeah, you do eventually stop her, and then Kyle shows up and is like, "Hey, we got to go," even though. So then you basically succeed. But was there
Yeah.
anything else from the prologue that kind of stuck out to you?
No, I mean that's about it. I mean, I just really liked the seeing the environment in a full 3D aspect. Like it was super cool to see how well done they remade everything and how it actually looked. It was awesome. And I just like, replaying the prologue really kind of brought me back to my original playthrough of Sky and kind of like falling in love with how they're just setting up these two characters to like go on this journey to become bracers. And like we know just because from future games, like what ultimately it entails and what ultimately ends up happening to the lore in the universe. And they're so naive at this point, they just want to become bracers and, help
Yeah,
people. Whereas later on, we're trying to, basically save the world. And that is so like not in their mind at this time and it's so funny to just see them, so happy go lucky and just like, oh, we're gonna be bracers. It's gonna be great.
yeah. Like I said, I feel like I appreciate it more looking back now, just because Trails' story gets a lot more complicated the later games you get, because it's like, well, if you remember this character back from 3 games ago, now their plot's coming up, and
Yep.
remember the dark past they had, where this is like, it's refreshing kind of to go back to the original and be like, well, this is the beginning. Like, there's no before this. Like, this is where all the characters are starting. So,
Yeah, they were establishing. It's not like, hey, this person, and you're like, oh yeah.
yep,
No, it's establishing the groundworks of the universe and the lore, which is great.
yep. All right. Well, after that, they decide to go to the city of Bose, which I always like this. I really like the mayor in this, which I don't. I'm forgetting her name now. Is it Maribel?
Yeah, it is Maribel. Yep.
So yeah, I always liked Maribel. She's always a interesting character. She has the maid, which I don't remember her name, but I gotta ask you, is her voice actor Fee? Because it almost sounded like
Yeah,
her. I
and it's
thought.
the same voice. It's the same voice actor.
It's funny hearing that. I'm like, that's Fee, but
Because I had to look it up. I looked it up right away because I was like, yeah, that is straight. But now when I see Fee, I can never not see her.
yeah, the maid.
Yeah.
But yeah, so Bose, you go to the Bose market, and it's I like I always like this part in the original because number one, you have Shara with you, so you have three
Mhm.
party members most of the time, and then you meet, as we talked about before, this just nonchalant bard when you go to talk to the general and meet him at the Hacken Gate, and it's just this bard just sitting there. His name is Olivier, and he sings this beautiful song for you because Shara and General Morgan are ready to really get into it at one point. He just comes and sings the song, which I honestly completely forgot that he did that until the remake.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I remember the original. I liked it, but then when I heard it again, I'm like, oh yeah, this was one of my favorite parts.
It's so funny to see him and knowing what like how he is later, seeing him like as like a younger person, and he's like just a musician who loves music and
And
loves to
loves
sing.
love.
Yeah. It's just funny. Um, I actually really like of all the bracer guilds we go to, the Bose Bracer Guild I love the most.
Who's in charge of that one? Do you remember the
General Morgan.
well, like the oh, you mean like the Hack and Gate, not like the Bracer Guild? Or I'm confused. Sorry, because I thought you meant like I thought you meant like the Bracer, the person who gives you like the quests.
Oh no, I'm just talking about the Bracer
Oh,
Guild in general.
okay. Yeah.
Yeah, because you know how um, the army's there. General
Yep.
Morgan's in
Yeah.
charge. Yeah,
General.
I really
He
like
has,
General. I like him
yeah.
as a character.
I always liked him too, and like his relationship with the Mayor Mayabel or Maribel are great too. But yeah, I like, especially when you get to the mission at the end where you're trying to track the sky pirates. You know, you have that part in the hotel
Mm.
where Shara tries to get Olivier drunk so he won't go on the mission, and he does like pass out for a bit. I will say too, I'm not going to spoil like what happens too far in later series with like what these characters do, but knowing like where these characters, the relationships they develop, and how like seeing the beginning of that was really interesting. I'm sure you know who the characters I'm talking
Oh
about, but you
yeah.
can definitely
Yep.
see the breadcrumb trails of what is going to develop in the future. So I was really interested to see that. But yeah, I liked trying to plan like to track the pirates, and you go back to their base, of course, and then you also meet that mysterious black armed man.
That guy.
That guy. Do they actually name him at that point? I don't
No, they
remember,
don't
but
name him at that point.
I always liked the original. In the original game, I actually, the pirate base was always one of my favorite parts, and
Oh,
they
we
did a
know you
good.
like pirates. We know
I
you
do
love
like
pirates.
pirates,
Yeah.
yeah, but I like how they did it in the remake as well. Like, you know, there's so many rooms in that base, and then you can go in and like save the hostages or just battle the pirates in random rooms. But that's when you get into the boss fight with the three siblings, which is Josette. Oh, why am I forgetting his name now? Is it? I said it earlier, but I gotta look up what their names are. Unless you remember them all.
No, I'm
Capella
not great. I'm
family.
not great with the their names.
Yeah, no, it's Josette's the easy one to remember. Why
Yeah,
is it not coming up? I'll just have to look
I
up.
got
Oh,
it.
there it is. Capia family. Oh, Dawn and Kyle. Kyle was the
Yeah,
one I
no,
remembered.
yeah,
So, yeah, so you get in a battle with them. And this was another pretty tough one because Dawn is like out for blood. And it is interesting seeing like Kyle and Josette both be like, are you sure you want to do this? Like, typically, we don't want to like hurt people. Like, they're fine, like, taking like from rich people and stuff, but they're not
hmm
like wanting to like actually hurt innocent people because they're in charge. Which we didn't mention this, but Cassius Bright, which is Estelle's father and Joshua's father, is like a huge S rank bracer, and he goes missing at the beginning. So that is
yeah,
another reason why Estelle and Joshua go out to try to search for him. And the airship that he was missing, or that he was on, that went missing, the Sky Pirates were the ones that kidnapped a lot of the hostages on the airship. So that's kind of what led you to them. I will say too, the first chapter is kind of where you see what with General Morgan, you see like the tension between the army and the bracers. Like
yep,
General Morgan hates the bracers, and when you first meet the army in town in Bose, they're like kind of nasty to you and giving you attitude until what's his name shows up and decides to kind of help you out. Uh,
yeah.
why am I'm blanking on too many names today. He's like the blonde guy from the intelligence division.
I'm trying to remember his name. Hang on, let me think. Um,
Richard, is that it?
Richard.
Oh, Alan Richard. Yep. So it's Alan
Yeah.
Richard. Yeah. So he shows up. He's like a really famous general, and he kind of he. It's funny because obviously, again, since we played the game, we know what happened. So we know that he's like one of the main antagonists behind the game. But he shows up and is like always really nice to you at first.
Yeah. Again, we see how the seeds are planted early, and can you imagine playing the original Sky and then like seeing that twist later? It's like
Yeah,
crazy. Yeah.
they did a good job because I feel like usually you're just like, oh, good, I have somebody in the army that is like my friend. But
hmm
it's funny seeing the rivalry, but it's not really a rivalry, but you can tell like the hate between his second in command and Estelle, especially later.
Yep.
Of course, I forget her name too. I was trying to find it real quick, but it's not coming up very easily. Uh, what is her name? I don't know, but she's like his second hand, or second right hand, basically, of the intelligence division. So
Mhm. No,
yeah, so
definitely. Yeah.
the Sky Pirates are captured, and Colonel Richard kind of gives you the bracers credit as well because you know the army shows up right at the end and takes them all, and they're like, well, the bracers, they kept trying to blame Estelle, Joshua, and Sheriff for like being involved in it, but of course he would stick up for them, and they could prove that they obviously weren't.
hmm Yeah. No,
And
definitely. Yeah.
was there anything else in chapter one that you wanted to touch on before we go to the next chapter?
No, what I think it really establishes like the universe and like the stakes again. It's much more of a lower stakes. We're not trying to save the world here. We're just taking things day by day, problem by problem as they come up. And I think it's they do a great job of doing that.
Yeah, that's it. Kind of reminds me of Dragon Quest in a way because you know a lot of
Ooh,
that
okay, yeah.
main story is more centered on the towns you visit. You help fix their problems while you're on your ultimate pursuit of what you're trying to save the world. But in the meantime, you're saving princesses that run away, or you're trying to find these or get rid of these monsters that are harassing the village. That kind of stuff.
hmm Yeah. Um, but moving on, when we get to chapter two, I love this because we get Agate, who I love.
Oh yeah, me too. Yeah, he always. It's funny because again, I feel like in the original game, he's like your senior who gives you attitude.
Yeah.
But again, having the context, looking back, it's like, well, he really was never that nasty to you. He was really looking out for you the whole time. But of
Yeah,
course,
he had their best intentions.
Yeah, Estelle's just ready to chomp his head off constantly, which is why we love Estelle. But even Joshua is usually like, he's not. It's all right. He actually is usually right, like which is the problem. Even though he's just kind of harsh with how he does things all the time. But I also like, of course, when on the way to, is it Rouen? Is that how you say
Yeah, that's how I say, yeah, Ruin. Yeah.
So on the way there, you stop at the lighthouse and you meet somebody there that you help take care of, and then you also stop at a city, and this is where one of the famous scenes I always remember from the first game, where Estelle and Joshua just stop and share lunch together,
Oh, yeah, they have
and
the little
then
picnic. Yep.
yep, and then Estelle makes Joshua feed him, which
Yeah,
or
which
feed
is
her, which
so weird.
yeah, which Joshua is just not about, but at this point, like you can see throughout the whole game, you can tell that Joshua has feelings for Estelle, but
Yeah.
Estelle just is completely oblivious at this point, and it's
Well,
just like, no,
it's the classic Trails where the main character is oblivious to everything
yeah,
around
to
them.
romance.
Yep, they don't know what's going on. I do think it's funny too. They get pickpocketed.
Oh yeah, I was gonna bring that up because yeah, they get pickpocketed by, I don't remember their name, but
Clem,
it's some
Clem.
some. Oh, okay, yeah, some from the orphanage,
Yeah. Yep.
which I always like that section because you meet all those kids, which they'll
Hmm.
come up in Sky third chapter. We'll have a lot to say
Yes, they
about one
do.
of the
Yep.
scenes, but so yeah, you go to the orphanage. Estelle has like a classic fight with this kid because
Wants her
he
badge
stole
back.
he stole her bracer emblem,
Hmm.
but basically Estelle doesn't have any proof. But uh, they also run into Chloe for the first time, who is another one of my favorites from the Sky trilogy, I will say, which she just introduces herself as a student of the Genis Royal Academy. And you also get to meet Siege, one of my another great character. This white hawk, or is it falcon? I can't remember
It's a
exactly.
falcon. It's a falcon.
But yeah, so you meet them, and she basically agrees to take you to the city to show you around. So you end up going there, and then you run into these thugs
Hmm.
there who they try to hit on Estelle and Chloe actually, which is funny. Then they're until they find out they were bracers basically.
Yep.
But I remember these three guys from the original game because they always, and then you also, after you run into them, you run into the mayor and his assistant Gilbert. And they're, of course, they're all acting all goody goody, like, oh, we're here to help people and we want to do this thing. And you got to get rid of these thugs. But again, with Sean and I, we had the hindsight to know it was going to happen. But I'm pretty sure originally I really didn't expect the mayor to be doing what he was doing.
No, no, I didn't either. It's funny though because now that you play a lot of these Trails games, you always know that there's one of the like figures who are supposed to be in charge. Usually, always have like ulterior motives and are doing
Right.
something behind the
Corrupt.
scenes. Yep, they're very corrupt. Yeah.
You also run into another, I don't know if he's a fan favorite character, but he's an important character, which is the queen's nephew. Which again, I really should have had like a character list up because I keep forgetting the names of everybody.
Hmm.
But let me look it up real quick. But his nephew, which is a royal, of course, of the queen, and he is not shy about throwing his weight around because he basically gets in a big disagreement about a hotel room that he wants. So let's see, what is his name? It is Duke Dunnan.
Yep.
So yeah, you run into him and his butler Philip, which I always liked Philip because he is just always feels so bad for everybody who has to deal with how selfish the Duke is. and he
it's funny too the way that they design the Duke. He is such a stereotypical like that is what you'd think of like a
noble, yeah.
spoiled noble kid.
Yeah, so yeah, you run into him, and then after that, you basically the Bracer Guild asks you to help out. Well, Chloe wants people or Joshua and Estelle to help them out with the play at
Yep.
school,
With the
and
festival,
since
the whole festival, yeah.
yeah, which is fun because especially later on, Trails really likes their festivals
Oh
and
yeah, that
their
becomes a huge thing in almost every single game.
their
I
days
love
off.
it. I love it.
But it is funny because yeah, Estelle and Joshua basically go and blend into school for a few days. You meet class president Jill, or student council president Jill, I should say, and then also Hans, who develops a good friendship with Joshua. And this is kind of where Estelle starts to realize her feelings for Joshua a bit, especially because they're going to do this play where they reversed all the gender roles. So all the knights and the manly roles are by the girls, and then all the
Mhm.
like the princess and all the maids are by the boys. But of course, Joshua gets chosen to be the princess, and everybody's like, "Wow, you look way too good to do this." But and then they say, or Estelle finds out that Chloe and Joshua are supposed to kiss, and that's why I feel like, and especially Jill, I feel like is a big catalyst into talking or to getting Estelle to realize that she actually does like Joshua, not just as a brother.
Yeah, well, this is one of those like common tropes we see in media a lot, where a character learns they have feelings for someone, or they discover their true feelings for someone when they realize like, oh my gosh, they're going to be kissing someone else, or they're going to be
Yep,
in a
classic
relationship with
anime.
yeah, classic anime right there, and I love it so much.
Yeah, and it's like I don't. We didn't talk too much about it, but yeah, Joshua was is Estelle's adopted brother.
Adopted
Like
brother, yeah.
Cassius just found him like abandoned and helped him out and brought him in to heal, and yeah, they just grew up together. I know it is weird for some people. It's still a little weird even for me to think about at times, but I can see it. I mean, it does make sense. So, but anyway, so going on after the play,
Hmm.
then we get trying to think. I think that's when we go to. Oh, that's when the orphanage gets burned down.
Yep, the orphan and their tasked to they have to investigate it.
Yeah, actually, I think it gets like, and then it gets burned down, and then like they use the play to raise enough money to build
Yeah,
it.
it's like right before that, and then they rebuild it, but the Estelle and Joshua are in charge of investigating.
Yeah, because the mayor wants to buy, basically wants the orphanage to move to wherever he has his like family vacation home or something.
Yeah. Again, we
But
see the corruption of the mayor.
yeah, so basically he hires this, well, he enables that the black guard group that you kind of run into before were behind everything, but they set up those three guys that you met before that ended up, which I don't remember their names either, but they're just like they were from a group that Agate used to run in, basically, and they
Hmm.
were being controlled kind of to do this because they were a lot more aggressive, which we didn't touch on that too much with Dawn, but he was being like controlled and being a lot more aggressive from this weird device, so they were confused. But yeah, you solve that, and then you get into like a chase because Agate joins you at that
Hmm.
point because he's also investigating a mission for Cassius that involves the black suited guards, and you end up fighting two of them at the lighthouse, but they end up getting away. So then you go back and confront the mayor, which one of the big issues with being the Bracer Guild is that you can't like they can't arrest the mayor,
Yeah, you're
like,
not making arrests. Yeah, you're not the
but
police,
they
but it's funny because then he ends up getting betrayed.
right, yeah, because they go to confront him. Well, I should say Gilbert, who we will see much
Yes.
more of later, was kind of set up to take the fall originally too, which he gets captured when the black guard get beaten. But the mayor is trying to get the Duke to invest into building basically a vacation home close to his town so that he can recover a lot of the funds that he embezzled basically when I can't remember what he did exactly, but he lost a lot of money in investments or something.
Mm-hmm.
And that yeah, then you end up running in or you confront him and he brings out these monsters and after you beat them, he brings out this ancient artifact that's like a relic from the church that he shouldn't have, which again, this is originally what always got me hooked in Trails is stuff with the church and these ancient relics because this relic would basically freeze time so that he was ready to shoot Estelle and Joshua.
Mm-hmm.
But we didn't mention this before either, but Estelle had this artifact that Cassius sent her that she was holding on to, and it basically deactivated the sacred relic so that they could stop him. But that was always that was kind of when the plot picked up at that point. I feel like too in the original.
Yeah, it's that point where we start getting again the higher stakes.
But yeah, I thought that was a good mid chapter because then you depart from that because Chloe. You also see Chloe like somehow gets the royal guard there, and you wonder like of course originally I'm like, well, there's obviously something more to her than meets the eye, but I really wasn't sure what yet.
Yeah, no, I totally get that. And again, it's kind of one of those common trail tropes where we they set up like one of the characters to that you
Yeah.
know there's something else more going on, but you don't know yet.
So after that, then they decide to, they're like, they want to get that orbit investigated and also keep going. So they want to go to Zeiss, which is basically like the technological hub of the
Yeah,
entire
we always there's always the
world.
one technological
Yep.
area of each Trails games, and here we are in this
Yep.
one.
And Zeiss, because, and you want to try to see if you can meet with Professor Russell, who's one of the leading minds in the orbit advancement age. So you go to Zeiss, but on the way there, you go through the mines and you end up meeting this little girl named
Yep,
Tita,
one of
who
my
was.
favorites.
It's funny because again, I didn't really like her that much when I played it originally, but again, going back from and seeing how she grows in the series, I liked her a lot more in this
She's
game.
hilarious. She is so funny.
She's also a lot better in combat, I feel like, in this
Yeah,
game, but
she can deal so much damage too.
yeah, she can.
She's such a heavy hitter.
And you find out that because you end up going to like the main hub, like I said, and you find out that she's actually Professor Russell's granddaughter.
Yep.
So she just takes you home to meet him, and then it's funny because Joshua and Estelle just get caught up doing whatever work he wanted to do. Like he doesn't care, and then Tita even gets caught up in it because they love like science advances so much they get caught up in all their work so often. But
Yeah.
eventually, after they get done with whatever Professor Russell was making them do, they show him that orb and they start doing testing on it, and it ends up knocking out all the power in the entire area, which did not make them very happy. Is it Murdoch, I think, or what is the
Yeah,
name
it's
of the.
Murdoch. Yeah.
So he comes to chew out Professor Russell and basically is like, well, if you're going to do testing, you need to do it at the lab, not at your house.
Mm-hmm.
So they ends up going there, but unfortunately, the power outage also alerted the intelligence division and the black guards that something that's where the artifact was, which they were trying to find. So Professor Russell ends up getting
Being
kidnapped.
kidnapped, yep, by the Jaegers.
Yep. And then they disguise themselves as the royal guard and actually even have like Dorothy take pictures of them and
Yep.
stuff, bringing him out. So then everybody starts turning on the royal guard, but also I finally remembered the name. It's Captain Amalthea is the right hand
Oh, yep. Yeah, you're right.
officer for Colonel Richard. And she's kind of like, this is where you start to see the intelligence division is not on the up and up because she's pretty nasty and she is coming in really throwing her weight around. But this gets to one of my favorite parts too, where you're sneaking into the fortress, which is what is it? The Leiston Fortress,
Hmm.
because you're looking for Russell, and there's a sky ship that they take a picture of that goes over there. This is where you have a talk with Major Sid, I think is his name.
Yeah.
Yeah, Major Sid, and you can tell like the way he talks, like something is up. So
Yeah.
you go away and come back.
This is
Uh,
something I love about Trails in general is that every faction or every um like unit or group has there's something else going on beyond the surface of how they present. And something I
yep.
really like, and it's set up really well here in this first game, and it's set up overall in general great. And like you had said, with the Central Intelligence Division, we start to see that with them here.
I also forgot to mention we get to meet a character that is really important later on in the series, but Kilika is here, as well as
Yes.
they introduce Zen a lot earlier than in the original game,
Hmm.
which I think was a good decision because I feel like Zen is basically the biggest afterthought in the original like
Well,
cast of the Sky
it's
trilogy.
it's very rushed in the original
Yeah, because
when
you just meet
Zen's
him in the
introduced.
tournament, right?
Yeah, you meet him at the tournament, and then it's just very rushed, and um, which is weird because he needed more of an introduction.
Yeah, he did because he's a lot better introduced and fleshed out in Daybreak 1 and 2, which takes place in his hometown. But
Hmm.
yeah, so they did a great job adding him into the game more, and he actually like joins you during this part. And obviously, there's a relationship with him and Kilika and a later character that we haven't met yet, but that'll get talked about more. I think it'll be more impactful for people playing for the first time when they see what happens in Sky's second chapter based on actually like Zen getting fleshed out more in first chapter this time.
Yeah, it'll be a better payoff.
Yep. But anyway, you sneak into the fortress, which this was always one of my favorite parts too. Like you have to try not to get seen at certain points, but you find out that Professor Russell is being held there by
Yep.
Major Sid, who does not want to do what he's doing, but he's kind of has his hand tied because Colonel Richard and Captain Amalthea are both there running the show. And they're
Yeah,
basically
he
saying with
has to do it. He has to.
yeah, they basically set the Royal Guard up, who is we didn't even mention her yet. Lieutenant Schwarz is one of the leaders of the Royal Guard, and they've been set up to basically be the villains that have kidnapped Professor Russell and are causing all these problems. So the rest of the army is a bit confused, but
Yeah. And then ultimately, you fight the Jaegers, but they don't. They end up getting away with Professor
yeah.
Russell. And this is a crazy scene that Agate slaps Tita.
Oh yeah, she does. Yeah, I forget. Yeah, because I didn't mention this whole time. Basically, Tita's been trying to join you to go on these missions, which is too soft hearted and wants Tita to go, but Agate and even Joshua are like, no, she should not be going because
Yeah,
basically
they think she's too
earlier,
small, too young.
yeah, earlier on too, Tita is the one who screws up and mess because they could have saved Professor Russell before all this in the tower, but Tita jumps in before they get to do it and basically almost gets Agate killed because he gets shot by this poison bullet and
Hmm.
almost dies. But yeah, so Tita has a lot of baggage like after all this. Like obviously she's really young and just trying to help, but Agate's really hard on her, and it's even hard on her that Estelle and Joshua reluctantly are agreeing that with Agate that she shouldn't be coming on this, but they do get her to come along to the fortress because she knows the tech and how to use the orb basically. So but yeah, then after all that, Major Sid helps you sneak out, and then Agate agrees to take Tita and Professor Russell into hiding. Basically,
Hmm.
so also that Joshua and Estelle can continue to go to the royal capital, which Professor Russell wants them to deliver a letter to the Queen about that black orb they have. So it's to keep them out of trouble and so they can go to the capital without having any issues. So this is where I feel like the plot's into full overdrive here. This is where I feel like it starts to pull people in if they weren't already invested.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Again, we start seeing the higher stakes going on here.
Yep.
We start seeing more impact in the world rather than just like what's going on in the specific area that you're in.
Also, all these towers that you go to usually have a side quest that Professor Alba tags along with you, or he's there to look at
Hmm.
stuff. Do you remember your initial thought with Professor Alba when you first saw him in the original game? I can't say I remember too much of what I thought, but I
I
was
thought there
curious.
was a lot of. I thought there was ulterior motives going on with these projects.
Yeah. Well, I mean, he seems like he's kind of goofy and
Well,
not
yeah,
really
but I
with
thought
it,
that was like I thought that was like a front.
right? Which obviously it was, but
Yeah.
it is funny because he ends up being a lot more involved than I expected. But so
Hmm.
then after all that, you end up going to the royal capital, and that's where, of course, I am a sucker for tournaments and anime and video games. I
Well, we
love a
all
good,
they're full of tournaments, and we all
yeah,
love them.
we love a good fighting tournament. And I did love in this game. I don't remember in the original if you actually got to see all the fights like play out in the engine like you do in this game, but I thought it was really cool that you got to see everybody use their skills because obviously you have the Bracer team, which has Kurt and Karna and Annalise and Grant.
Hmm.
Which again, I was glad they gave Annalise more screen time, but still not enough. But those are kind of like your big brother sister bracers you're looking up to. So they have a team, and then you find out that Zen is basically in a team by himself because he couldn't find anybody to join. But there's also a team of the Capua pirates, or they were let out of prison by the Duke just for some unknown reason because they would be entertaining to fight in the tournament. And then, of course, a lot of the guards, a couple teams of the Royal Guards, and then Lawrence, the head of the intelligence division guards, is also in a tournament.
Hmm.
But the winner gets to go to the Queen's or to the banquet that the Duke is hosting. And
Yep.
that is really the only way that they can get in to see the Queen because they try to go, but they're not allowed in. So that's what they come up with the plan. So of course I loved all the fights. Now you don't actually get, or you do fight the Bracer team,
Yeah, you do.
right?
Yeah.
So yeah, I think you fight them. You don't actually get to fight the pirates this time, right? That's
No,
the
you
one.
don't. No.
And then you fight Lawrence's squad, which isn't too difficult this time. But of course, Olivier shows up to join too, much to
Hmm.
his poor guard. His right hand wingman shows you get to find out there's more to Olivier because he keeps being at the Erebonian embassy, and his guard. I'm so bad with names today. I can't think.
Sorry.
What is? It starts with an M. I feel like Olivier. Let's see. I know you know who I'm talking about, but I got
Yeah.
to look up and see who it is for sure. Uh, it's not jumping out at me right. It's like Murdoch, or it's not Murdoch because
No,
that's
it's
who
not
we.
Murdoch.
It's
Yeah.
Kurt's brother, but I don't remember what his name is from Cold Steel. But oh, Mueller, that's it, Mueller Vander. So Mueller
Yeah.
shows up, and you
Miller.
have a lot
Yeah.
of funny scenes with him and Olivier. But it's funny because then when you win the tournament and go to the banquet, Olivier is just so excited to go, and then
He is.
Mueller convinces everybody that he should not go because he's an
Yep.
endangerment to the actual country's security.
Yeah, it's funny though. We start to see that like Olivier is like much more involved in the universe and has a much bigger role than initially thought.
The castle dinner is very interesting though, because obviously you go with Zen, who the Duke really takes a shining to Zen, which I don't remember if that actually happened in the original or
It
not.
did
But
not. It's a difference. Yeah,
okay, I
the
wondered,
differences. Yeah.
but I thought it was a good fit. But you get to go to dinner with all of them, and then all the mayors that you've met, as well as the Genis Royal Academy headmaster. And then basically, Colonel Richard shows up with the Duke and says that the Queen just can't rule anymore, and the Duke is going to be in charge and they're going to marry off Princess Claudia to somebody else in a
Hmm.
different kingdom. So the Duke will take over, and of course, everybody's not very happy, but they're kind of stuck. And that's where you end up talking to the head maid who dresses Estelle and Joshua up as maids and
Yep.
sneaks them in to talk to the Queen. And that's kind of where you get the backstory more of Estelle's mom, and as well with Cassius, that he was the head of the royal guard. That is something throughout the whole game, which I appreciated too. Like, obviously, Cassius is an S rank bracer, and he's one of the strongest characters and most intelligent in the series. But from Estelle's perspective, he's just like a bumbling father. So she's always surprised to hear how much everybody respects him and how like big of an impact he
Yeah,
had
he
on
has that
everyone.
huge impact. You get a little bit more of the world, the lore of the world too, through this
Yeah,
conversation. Again, through the 100 Days War with Erebonia, and again, you see the role that Cassius had in that war. Which again,
yeah,
you're drawing more, and you see Estelle kind of get a better, not that she didn't appreciate, but like a better and more understanding of like how impactful he actually was
right.
and is. Yeah.
Yeah, and you get to hear more about Estelle's mother and why like it messed Cassius up so much. Like he left the army because of that and became a bracer.
Hmm.
And the queen actually blames herself for that. But you also get the conversation because obviously we talked about her already, but Captain Amalthea is just like does not like Estelle and Joshua being there. She's very suspicious and confrontational with them. Colonel Richard isn't too bothered by him, but he has that conversation and basically tells them that again he looked up to Cassius so much, he was his role model, and
Yep.
without Cassius they wouldn't have won the 100-Day War and got out of it as well as they did. But I thought that was interesting. And then after that, of course, you come up with the plan because the queen had petitioned the Bracer Guild to save her daughter, Princess Claudia, as well as take back the kingdom from
Hmm.
Colonel Richard and
But
his
then Duke and the Duke.
yeah and Duke, which Duke Dunn wasn't really involved too much. I did like that they kept the battle with him, by the way, where you have to not try to kill him to get all the BP.
Yeah.
He actually
It's
was a lot more annoying in the fights, though. He would like heal people and revive them. I feel
Mhm.
like,
Yeah, and then go on our recruiting. We have to recruit the bracers to
yeah.
help us out on our mission.
And then you go actually save Princess Claudia and all the people trapped, and you find out that Chloe is
Chloe,
in
yep.
fact Princess Claudia, which it
Claudia,
takes Estelle way too long to figure out, even while she's like being talked to, but which is
yep.
really funny. But yeah, so and that's going to be a theme because there's going to be somebody else potentially in the future who has a Chloe type moment as
Yep.
well. But yeah, then after that, you split into two groups. The boys and the girls split up. The guys go down in the sewers and end up into like the secret castle area. I was trying to remember the fight that you do with them. Is it just a bunch of like guards and
Yeah,
like
it's like a bunch of
beasts?
guards. It's not like a big enemy. No.
Yeah. Now the girls, Estelle, Shara, and Chloe get into quite a bit of fights, and then you end up, which in the original game it was the toughest fight in the game against Leonhardt,
Hmm.
which you didn't have to win, but you did if you want the or Lawrence, I should say. He's not. We don't know his other name yet, but I feel like the fight was way easier in this game. What did you think? Because the first game, the only way I could beat the fight was I think you had four characters. I feel like, or maybe You just had three, but I would
You
just
only
put
had three in the
everybody.
original. Yeah, you only had three
Okay,
in the original.
so I put them all in the corner and just cast arts at them the whole time in the original. This game, I think I only messed up once, and then I'd easily beat him the next time. So,
Yeah, no, I thought it was the same difficulty. That was just me though.
but yeah, you beat him, and then you end up going underground to this like ancient area, the sealed area, and you find this is another thing that they changed with the script, by the way. They're usually called archaisms, right? And
Yeah.
trails typically, but what do they call them in this game?
What do they call? I still call. I kept calling them
I
arcade.
know in my head I just said arcade, but they call them something else. I don't remember now, but anyway, that's where you fight all these archaisms. We'll say that you can see, which are very strange. So you end up fighting Amalthea and Colonel Richard. Both the fights were really good, but nothing too challenging again. But
Hmm.
who was your main party, by the way, at the end that you used?
My main party. I pretty much stuck with Estelle, Joshua, and hang on. Let me. I have a screenshot of it.
I did. Well, I can tell you. So I did Estelle and Joshua, and then Chloe and Olivier. That was my original party, and I stuck with it.
I did that on my first playthrough. I know that, and then the second one, I would rotate Chloe out sometimes. It really depended.
Yeah, I feel like Shara was better in this game too. I thought about using her a
I
few
wasn't a big
times,
fan of Cher actually.
but yeah, you get to fight all those fights for fun, and then of course at the very end you fight the giant archaism, which was interesting because you have to fight it 3 times, right? In
Mhm.
this one, which was not the case in the original. Now the third time it really isn't much of a fight, but or is it? I think that's right. Am I
Yeah, it's the third
remembering right?
time. It's the third time. Yeah.
But basically, this thing just keeps getting up constantly, and Colonel Richards comes back to protect you and help you out, but he can't deal with it until Cassius shows up and
Hmm.
stops it for good. Well, he hits it, and then you basically stop it for good because you just have to hit it a few more times, and it finally dies. But then this is where you kind of get the story of why like all these people kept getting brainwashed, like Kurt and Colonel Richard, like his memory was foggy like once
Yep.
they got the artifact, so like everybody's like, well, something weird's going on here, but
I,
everybody's like, all's well that ends well, everything's great. And Estelle and Joshua had made a promise to talk about, well, Estelle wanted to talk about her feelings and Joshua was going to talk about his past after all this. So of course we get to the famous moment where Estelle, somebody's with them. I think it's well, yeah. Stella's gonna start to say about her feelings, but she gets nervous and decides to go get ice cream, which takes like all day, by the
yep.
way, because it's like pitch black by the time she gets back. But while she was doing that, Professor Alba had come up to talk to Joshua,
Hmm.
and Joshua, of course, is very insightful and catches on to things quickly, and he realizes that Professor Alba was around every time people had these weird memory
Yep.
losses. And this is where I'm like, oh boy, this is getting good. And then you find out that Professor Alba is actually part of an organization called Ouroboros. And he also was, Joshua was also part of this organization.
Hmm.
Wiseman is actually an Anguist, and he was the one responsible for basically building Joshua back up after his disaster with the village, which they didn't really talk about too much in this game yet, right? I don't want to talk too much about Hamill because I don't think that's talked about more till next game, if I
No, yeah,
remember
it's more in
right.
the next game. They start talking about it a lot more.
But yeah, but basically Joshua was a broken shell after that, and Professor Alba or Weissman is his actual name. Uh, helped, because basically his specialty is brainwashing and building up like people, manipulating them and like getting rid of their whatever in their brains, he can shut it out. So he basically snaps his fingers and makes Joshua remember everything that about his past and all that stuff that he's done. And he's like, "Well, you can join me, but you don't have to. You can go back to the Brights and continue to live a lie, basically, that you're this normal person." But this is where the guilt starts to weigh on Joshua, because he just like he wants to not go with Weissman, but he can't stand to be around Estelle anymore, because basically she's like the sun, is what everybody says, and he
Mm-hmm.
just has too much of a dark past now.
Yeah, he can't get over his own past.
Yeah. And then Josh or Estelle was going to try to tell her or tell him her feelings, but he basically stopped her. And then until they go back, and then they meet again on the roof on the castle at night. And this is where Joshua basically tells his feelings to her and is like, I'm going to leave though, because I just can't be around you. And then
Mm-hmm.
he kisses her, but also slips her a knockout gas or knockout pill.
Yep.
So, and then that's pretty much how the game ends, which is crazy still to this day.
Yeah, very odd, very weird ending. It leaves you wanting more. Definitely leaves you wanting more. Um, which that's why I'm so happy that they're remaking the second one.
I know it was good that they had the trailer at the end, because obviously I knew that they would have had to make chapter two if they're going to do chapter one, because Falcom has talked about it in the beginning that they originally Sky First and Second Chapter were going to be one game, but
Mm-hmm.
as we know with those shareholders who continue to be impatient with games, they're just like, no, just release it. So that's where we got the cliffhanger. And it's funny because a lot of people think this is the biggest cliffhanger in the series, but Cold Steel 3's cliffhanger still was the hardest for me to be like, I
Yeah, no,
need to
I
know what
totally agree.
happens next.
I think that, and I enjoy the Cold Series games more, Cold Steel
Yeah,
games
me
more. So I think
too.
that might be why too.
Cold Steel 1 also kind of ends on a cliffhanger, but I feel like it's not as hard as Cold Steel 3. And 0 really doesn't have a cliffhanger, and neither does
No,
Daybreak 1.
Zero and
So,
Daybreak, they end. They're like almost like they could be treated as like standalone stories
right.
almost.
But yeah, and then yeah, that pretty much wraps the series up, or the first game up. So, do you have any more thoughts about it before we end it?
No, it was a great remake. I'm really happy that they actually made it, and I was so surprised how good it was.
Yeah, critically it did very well, and I think it sold very well too. And more importantly, it finally gave everybody a game that you could recommend. Be like, this is where you need to start. I know you could
Yep.
play the first game on PC, and most people could play it, especially with a Steam Deck now. But it still is just kind of hard to go back to. I even feel like the crossbow games are easier to play, like with the updates, than the Sky original Sky trilogy was.
Yeah, no, definitely.
But yeah, we will definitely do an episode on Sky's second chapter. I don't know if there's no date announcement. I think December is when Falcom does their plans for next year, but I wouldn't be surprised if it comes out next year. We'll see. If anything, if not next year, it'll definitely come out in 2027. But I know Falcom wants their shareholders want at least 2 games a year now.
Hmm.
And the rumor is that there's going to be a new Tokyo Xanadu next year, and
Ooh.
then which I still need to play the original. And then Sky Second Chapter might be the other game. I know in America we're getting
Yeah,
Trails through
Horizon.
in the
Yeah,
Horizon, but that doesn't count for Falcom because it already came out in Japan last or this year. I think it was this year or
it was
last
this
year.
year, earlier this year. Yeah.
And also we're getting East 10 Proud Nordics next year, which I'm
Yep,
excited
which
for
should
because
be
I
awesome.
didn't play the original just
East
because
10 is so good.
I was gonna play the original, but they had already announced that version, so I'm like, well, I'll just wait.
It's so good.
But yeah, I'm sure we'll do an episode on Trails Through the Horizon for sure.
Oh
And
yeah, definitely.
I've
Yeah.
heard very good things about that. which is good. I know we didn't do an episode on Daybreak 2, but we're gonna, I'm sure, do an episode on every single game at some point. It's just, it might just be when we replay them. But I know you might have been a little higher on Daybreak 2 than I was.
I
I
was,
liked it.
yeah.
I liked it, but there, I thought it was a step back compared to Daybreak 1 and Reverie, I will say. So, but there were definitely,
It's definitely a step back from Daybreak One, but I still liked it.
right. Well, I think, and the problem was that, again, the shareholders forced them to push it out. So I think they kind of rushed it a bit. And you can see,
Hmm.
like, because a big criticism with it is the main plot doesn't really progress. And also, there's a huge, like, Act 3 has a really big padding chapter.
Yep,
But I will
very much
say the
so.
Fragments chapter in Daybreak 2 is some of the best Trails content, I still think. So,
Hmm.
but anyway, we could talk about the series all day. So I think we are going to end it here. So thanks everyone for listening. And yeah, we'll see you next time for Trails in the Sky, or Trails in the Sky Part 2, as well as Through the Horizon.
Bye, guys.
Sayonara.